Hello and welcome to another ARCHLine.XP online webinar course. My name is Zoltán Tóth, I'm working for ARCHLine and I'm a self-proclaimed CAD and modeling enthusiast, so I enjoy creating things in any kind of CAD software. So today I'm not only going to show you how to do certain things in our program, but I will also tell you the little tips and tricks I picked up along the way. So today we are going to talk about light and light sources, because when it comes to rendering, there are two things you have to get it right. One of them is material settings, which we are going to discuss tomorrow, and the most important thing apart from materials, of course, is lighting. So have the right amount of light and right reflections, and then the result would be speaking to itself. So today we are going to discuss how to get the lighting right and how to create light sources, how to work with lamps, and how to visualize the result. Last time we did look at documentation. Some of you were already there. If you have missed that show, or if you want to rewatch the ones that we already have, then I should suggest you visit our website ARCHLine.XP.com/webinars, and there you can see the upcoming shows and the ones we had before. So if you want to know more about kitchen design, bathroom design, tiles, CAD drawing basics, then this is the place to start. But today is all about light. So this is going to be a very visual show, so I'm going to expect a lot from the result. If you have any questions during the show, you can ask on the right hand side or below the video in the chat bar. I'm going to look at the questions every now or then. At the end, I'm going to answer them as well. So what we are going to get to is, this is the end result that we are looking for. This is a electronic appliance shop, something where you can buy, you know, computers, tablets, and things like that. This is not an actual location. This is a sort of example project to show you the potential that is in lighting elements. So today we are going to discuss how to create these things, namely recessed spotlights, LED strips, luminous text, and other lighting elements. But this is not really where we start, so we have to circle back a little bit and see how we get things started. If you want to see the project file that I'm using today, then I suggest you go to our website, and there you can download the project file and the very neat course guide that I'll be using during the way. So if you want to get this PDF to follow along, or maybe complete this course on your own, then you can download these things free of charge from our website. So getting back to the topic itself, we have to start with a very basic layout. So that's where everything gets started. And in order to visualize the light sources, I have to start up a rendering. We already discussed how that is done, but if I want to see the result of my work, I need to enable some kind of integrated rendering. So whenever I do something, I will see in the rendering how the light sources look like. So simple as that. So if I start an integrated rendering as a real-time draft, I will expect results which are not high in quality. You see, the resolution is going to be quite low, but the feedback will be instantaneous. So every time I do something on my floor plan, the result would be visualized. So as you can see, this location is bathing in light because there's no ceiling. So every time I do some navigation in my floor plan or in my model, the render opens up. Now, this is not something that you have to run every time you work, but doing so would ensure that you know how the results should look like, so you don't have to spend too much time with rendering. Okay, so how do we get started? First of all, let's get familiar with how do we place lamps. So how do we actually, you know, get some kind of light source? So let's look for something for the walls. Wall lamp number 3 is one of the models I like to use, and I'm going to place it on the 2D surface. So I'm just going to click on the element, and I think I need to change the base elevation because this should be higher. 1.6 I think is a good value. By default, this lamp is pushed to the ground, but I'm going to change that before I place it. So now dragging and dropping it, I can snap it. Let me zoom in. I can slap it to the wall. You see on the 3D and on the rendering that the lamp is already on. So every time I put in something, I see on the renders that the lamp is functioning. How does placement look like in 3D? Same story, drag, drop, and by clicking on the plane, you can just position it anywhere you want. If you want to highlight or fine tune the elevation values, then you can change that here in the properties tab. So that's how you can position things in the 3D by using the axes or the base elevation marker. I think I have to talk about the units because you see that this model is in meters while the course guide is in millimeters. So if you want to change it to millimeters, you can do that in the properties. Now, once I change the units, I think now the next topic is to actually get a ceiling right. So let's just go back to the 2D and see how do we put a ceiling above our model. There's a couple of things I have to figure out. First, for instance, I have an extra line over there. You can see a spline. I do not need that for my work, so I'm just going to see on which layer it is. This layer is called spline, and I'm going to use the layer walk, which I talked about last time, and I'm disabling the spline's visibility, so I don't need that. Okay, so let's put a ceiling in here. What I do is that I go to the building area, or the toolbar, the building toolbar, and I'm going to click on ceiling, and the plain auto ceiling would be good enough. But for that, obviously, you need to activate the 2D. This is something you can do in 2D only. So let's place the ceiling. And now I see that I have a ceiling with a sort of like a diagonal hash over. I don't need that. So let's just fine tune the ceiling. Two things I have to get right. One is the elevation of the ceiling, which I have to fine tune, raise it just 8 centimeters higher. There you go. And the 2D representation should be modified as well, because I don't want that thick sort of thing. I want to have a simplified view. Yeah, that's much better. So now comes the part where I actually add elements, spotlights and recessed elements into my my ceiling. But for that, I need to fine tune how the light sources should look like. So first I'm going to go to the tab where I can define the light sources. I have sort of like a palette of lamps I can position on this ceiling, and I can pick one. I'm going to pick this one, this spot lamps number 6, and I have to fine tune it. Why should I do that? It's because there are too few in numbers, so I have to go to the division tab and set up how I want to position my lamps. If I want to have lamps on polyline nodes, how many lamps I need, etc., etc. This you can fine tune. And once you have accepted it, once you have hit OK, you can save this as an additional element as a template for later use. So I'm just going to do just that, saving it as another template. I think it should be webinar spotlights or something like that. Let me just type that in. Yeah. Once I did that, I can save it. And I can use it later on. So if I hit OK now, I see that it's going to be part of my my palette, which I can use later on. Hit OK. Now I'm jumping back to the ceiling editor, and now I have the webinar assortment of lamps. So let's actually add them to the ceiling. Before I do that, I think I have to raise them up, otherwise they are going to extrude themselves from the ceiling. Now let's go to the place where I can define where the spotlight should be. I'm going to use one vertical line, or one single line to position, and if I hit the check mark, I see lamps are there. However, there are no holes, so the lights won't get through because there's no hole drilled through the ceiling. For that, I need to go to the cut tab, and I have to say that I want to have a hole, which I can do with the check mark over there with that box. Make a hole in the false ceiling. The hole is too large. This I can fine tune, decrease the size like this. So one size, the X value is changed, the width is changed, the length should be changed as well. Now it's good. There's a shortcut for this, so if you want to fine tune how the cut looks like, you can do that here. Okay, so one set of lamps is done, but they're not at the right place. So let me go back to the position. And here I can see a bunch of values and padlocks and whatnot. Let me show you how that works. First, let's disable this check mark and fix the value which is not going to be changed. And the rest of the values, I know that it's 500 from one of the sides and 500 from the two edges, which means that this assortment of lamp is going to be positioned from these sides for 500 millimeters. Now let's have another set of lamps, which I can do by clicking on the plus icon, and now I have to change the values where this line is. So let's say it's 2 meters. Hit the check mark, and then it's created. So it's easy as that. Now let's go to the other side. Again, click the plus, and now I'm going to change the padlock settings. I enable that value and type in 500, and again by clicking on the plus icon I can have another one, and that is going to be 2 meters if I remember well, because this is going to be like a mirror image of the other side. So okay, that's good. I think we are done, so let's just hit OK and see how it looks like in the rendered image, because that is what we are using to sort of check what we have done. So the 2D updates in a second, the 3D is updated as well, and if for whatever case the rendering is not updating, you can do that with the with this button over here. You can stop the rendering, you can restart it, and then the software would sort of unlink the renders. Renders usually are in connection with your model. Sometimes they're unlinked, but if that happens, just click that button and then it's going to be back on. So you see that the lamps are in place, casting nice light maps onto the surfaces. Even reflections are pretty good. But if I want to continue with my work and I don't want the ceiling to interfere with my further work, I can turn off the lights over there. So from now on, when I edit something else, the ceiling is off, so they are not going to interfere, these spot lamps, with whatever I'm going to do next. And what I'm doing next is bringing in a lamp from an external library, because it's one thing to use ready-made lamps, but it's another story to know how to create ones. So let's go to the 3D warehouse, which you already know. And once we have signed in, for that you need to sign in. This is maintained by another company, so you need to be logged in and online to use it. So let's look at concrete ceiling lamp, which is one of the models I like to use for this model because it's pretty modern. There are 2 versions. Let me see which one. I think that one is the one I need to download. Remember to keep an eye on the size and the polygon numbers. We learned that last time. I think this should be good enough. So let's just download the object, and when I do, the object is going to be, once I have signified what it's supposed to be, it's going to be added to my design like this. So let me just, yeah. So now the lamps are in, they are positioned in the 3D. And now I just want to move them somewhere else. So I like to position things in the 2D. It's much faster and accurate. So let's just snap to these points, and I can make sure that it's going to be just above this kind of counter. Size is not good. Lamps are too large, so I'm going to have to go to the properties and define the sizes, which I think I can do with the pencil icon, and then I can just change the sizes. So let's do that first before I change anything. Click the uniform 3D scaling, because then if I change one value, all the other values are going to be scaled as well, so I don't have to worry about stretching my items. Another thing I have to check is the material settings. I'm not satisfied with the materials this lamp came with, so I'm just going to change this grayish texture to something else. So let me go to my texture library and look for a chromish. I think Chrome 002 would be fine. Hit OK, and now the lamp is changed. So okay, this should be good. Are we done with this? Well, not really. Let me show you what happens if I do that. First of all, I need to position it back because I just scaled it, and scaling is prone to move the elements. So let me just snap it back where it is. Base elevation is not good, and I will see a more difficult problem with these lamps, namely that they are not acting as lamps yet. So let's just highlight it and raise it back. Okay, they are in the right position, and you see that that they are reflecting lights from other light sources, but they don't have that many lamps themselves. Let me just refresh the render again. There you go. So you see that it's not lighting. So why is that? Now, this is interesting. First of all, let's say that I only want this lamp to be on and everything else should be turned off. This just takes for a second, and then all the other lamps should be off, and then I can see the lamps in isolation. I see that, well, something is going on. The lamp has a light source. I just don't know where it is. So if I see that light bulb, once I selected something, I see where the light source is, which is completely off. So it's not in the right place. Why is it so? If you select any kind of item and you see the light bulb element just in the top left corner, you see that the object has a light source. This is done intentionally. If you download something from the 3D warehouse and if lamp is in its name, then the light source is assigned automatically, but the automatic assignment is sometimes not the best. So you have to fine tune that. You have to go to the add edit light sources, and now you see that these 4 lamps have one light source altogether. So that we have to change, and let's see how we do that. So two things we have to do. First, we have to make sure that from every view the light source is in the right place. I'm just going to move it within the lamps themselves. But now that's only one lamp out of 4, so by clicking on add, I can add another light source, which should be, I think it's in the global light sources, compact ones, and 10, 11 watts would be fine. Okay, so now I have another one, which I have to, again, position to the right place. So now I have 2 light sources. If I click back and forth, you see how they toggle. And, but, you know, 2 of the lamps are now having light sources, sort of light bulbs, but there's nothing for the remaining 2. So if I hit OK, I see on the render that 2 lights are on, but the remaining 2 are off. So I'm going to show you a shortcut of how to copy and paste light sources. Let me just highlight the 2D and select the lamp itself, and I'm going to show you how to sort of drag and copy the lamp. So just let's click on the light bulb icon, and then I can select the light source and move a copy like this. So one copy is made, and again I'm clicking on the light source I want to select and copy. Move a copy again, and you see in the 3D and on the, or rather on the rendered image, that now all 4 lamps are on. So they are marvelously on, so they are lighting up the place the way they should be. Once I'm done with that, I need to save this object as a lamp in my library. Why should I do that? Because then it would appear not only as an object, which again I would need to add additional light sources to. No, this time I'm going to save this lamp as an object with 4 individual light sources for later use, so I can add name to it, category, etc. Again, if I have saved it in my library and later on I want to modify where it is, I just right click and I'm going to say sorting category, and that way I'm just going to be able to reassign where this thing is. So if, for example, if you want to have like a manufacturer item library, then you can add another category to it. So that way you would have your own user-made customized lamps. I think this wraps up creating a new lamp, but what about using an existing one and defining how it looks like? So let's place a spotlight over there, which I can do from the libraries. Let me just navigate to somewhere where I can actually see what's going on, and maybe turn off the visibility of the other lights. So I'm just going to turn these things off, making sure that they are not on, interfering with my model. And also, if I click on the lamp itself, I can turn this one on, off, I mean, by clicking on the light source and disabling it. So this is not going to interfere with my site. Okay. Let's go back to the spotlight itself, and I think there I want to place something. Let's go for the object library and look for a spotlight. Let me just find one which looks the way I want. Yeah, that's the one. It's facing away from the wall, so once I have positioned it, I can just rotate it. Just 1 second, clicking on it on the 2D. I can just change the, base elevation is not good either, so I have to raise it up. And then you see that something is happening in the render, but until I turn this the other way, you're not going to see the results. So here we go. Question: how do I show the light in the 3D? Maybe I don't have time for rendering, so how do I visualize the light in the 3D model environment? Well, there's a switch for that, and if you go to the 3D, you can fine-tune and toggle how you want to show your lights, because it is possible to show the light sort of casting in the 3D as well. This is heavy on your CPU, but you can enable that if you want to show how your lamps will look like. So I'm just going to switch this off and investigate how to change the light pattern. So again, if I select the lamp, I'm able to define or customize the cone of light itself. So let me just go to light, and again I'm going to turn this one off, so nothing else should be on except for this line. It's better to do it this way, because otherwise everything else would interfere with your light pattern, but this way you can concentrate on what's really at hand. So clicking on the light, I'm in the lamp itself, and again we go back to the edit light source. It's not only for adding new lights, it's also for editing ones. So here again I see different views of my model. Let's just change it to something else. And here I can change the cone itself. So if I want to say that maybe it's a it's not that wide. Maybe it's a narrower cone. Then I can change that right over here. So if I change anything, you see that things change in the 2D representations on the left hand side, but also in the 3D you would see the result for that. So this is one way to do it. So if you want to change how wide the light is casting, or the lamp is casting the light, here you can do that. And once I have accepted it, I can fine tune it a bit further in the 3D. So let's just hit OK. And select the lamp while you have the light on, so that way you can see the result, obviously. So if you select the lamp, you would see the movement markers, but if you click on the bulb again, you see again movement markers, but if you click on the blue axis, then you can just change where the light is casting its light. So if you change that back and forth, you see what will be in focus. So that way you can move the lamp itself, you can move the light, so you can direct that. So if you want to put something in emphasis, then that's how you do it. So now I'm just going to switch that off and proceed with the LED strips. I think is the next one. Let me just consult with my chart. LED strips, now what are they good for? Well, essentially they are models, which are not lamps. They are just pieces of 3D models which are able to emit light. So let's see that podium over there, and I want to have a circular LED strip which is emitting some kind of light. So I can draw that with the arc tool, just like that. So clicking on the opposite side, I can draw where one side of the LED strip is going to be. I click on the other side as well, again going with arc, and here I have a ring which looks like regular plastic grayish ring, but this has properties that you can fine tune, namely two important things. One is the light it's going to emit. The other one is the color of the material itself. So let's define an orangish light and change the material itself. These are two different switches, so make sure you have the actual one. If you want to have orange light and bluish body material, then you can do that just fine. So okay, I think I have the object ready. Nothing is happening. Well, it's because it's being pushed into the ground, so I need to raise it up, which I can do with the blue marker or just typing in the value, which is 130, I think. Let me just see how that would look like. Enter, and now in the render updates, you see, well, there is definitely a result. Maybe it's too much. So I have to tone this down a little bit, but that is why the integrated rendering draft is a good tool, because then you can see how things would look like before you mess things up. So I'm just going to change it to forgiving light, something whitish, and the body material I think I'm going to leave it as it is. But this is how you can create a 3D body which gives out light. Thinking with this sort of logic, you can use the same thing with three-dimensional letters. So let's get introduced for luminous or lighting text. How does that work? Well, it's in the lighting tool itself. So then you can sort of create three-dimensional text which would be giving out light. What you do first, you have to type in the text, which is going to be eDesign. That is the name of our little shop of wonders. And once we have hit OK, we can fine-tune how the text should look like. First, we have to position it like that. So you can fine-tune that later on. Don't forget about that. So just do it like that. And now I can change a few factors. Namely, the extrusion of the text, I'm going to use it as it is, but the size I have to crank up a little bit because this should be larger. And again, the two values, just the same case with the LED strip, would be the lights it's emitting, and the other thing is the color of the object itself. So let's start with first the color. I'm enabling light, and I think some kind of pinkish color would be fine. That would be calling attention to the text. Yeah, and that is just the body material. And now I have to set up the light itself. Again, some kind of pinkish. Okay. I have to, I think, crank up the light. Let's just accept this and see how it looks like. Okay. Not bad, not bad. I have to move it somewhere else with the markers in the 3D. That's the easiest and fastest way to do it. And push it downwards. Well, I think this text should be a bit more prominent. Maybe it should be like really a light. So what do I do then? I can go back to the properties and crank up the lumens like that. So let's just give it a larger value. Hit enter. It's better. Let's just crank up a little bit further. Okay, I think this is getting better. So you can experiment with that. You don't want them to be too sort of prominent, because then it would take the focus away from your design. Let's go inside and see another example for a three-dimensional lighting text, or a luminous text if you prefer. Again, use the same tool, type in the text. I think it's going to be inspire or imagine, yeah. Click on the surface, click on where the text starts, and click the inclination like that. And then story starts from the beginning. Change the extrusion, so this should be a little bit pushed into the surface, I think. Let's make it thinner print, and the text size and the font is good. The light, okay, now first let's make it blue for material, and for light it should be bluish again, but yeah, I think this is good. And well, I think I'm satisfied with that. I'm not going to dress it up some more, because it would be just rinse and repeat. But now you can see the difference between the body's material and the light it is giving out. Using the same three-dimensional text, there's a neat little trick I can show you what we can do, and that is using dots to create like a guiding light. That is something I picked up along the way. This is a very neat tool with which you can just quickly push down a lot of small spotlights. Let me show you what I mean. So select the 3D text and type in a bunch of dots. Or it could be dashes as well, it doesn't matter. So type that in, click on the surface, and click where you want the direction of these lights to go. Okay, here we go. So now change the size. So I want to push this into the ground, so I have to make them thinner a bit. And I think I need to have another color to them. Let's just go to the luminous tab. I have to enable the light. First crank up the luminosity. Okay. This one is fine. And here's the trick. I want to position them, 2 copies of them, onto my floor plan. So I'm just going to select the element, right click, show on floor plan. Go to the 2D and move this bunch of dots like that. And now I'm making a mirror copy of them. So I want to have another copy of them, but I want to mirror it along the axis. So I just have to go to Edit, Duplicate, Mirror, select the door, and sort of make like a mirroring axis, like that. Click, and now another version of the lamps appear. And you see in the render how they appear. So that is a very easy trick, a very cheap trick if you ask me, to how to create like a sort of like a runway style of guiding lamps. So this way you can, let me just turn back on the suspended ceiling, so then they would be on. That's right. So one thing I haven't mentioned, should have before, how to modify the path of the light sources. Just click the suspended ceiling, click on where the lamps are, and then you can access the profile. So if you want to add additional breaking points, you can just click on the nodes, click on the polylines, add the nodes, and then you can even offset the polylines, or you can add additional breaking points or curves or bends or things like that. But this is the idea in terms of how to create a very simple project. Now I'm just going to have to open up the final stage of the project. So let me just see how the model looks like, and then I'm just going to just real quick load up the final version, because I think that will be a little bit better for my purposes. The rendering is, like you have mentioned, you have seen before, it's not really spot on, but this is actually what we are hoping to achieve, and that you can do by basically keep on repeating the things that I've did so far. So if you have all the lights, everything set up, then you might end up with something like this. So if this is the result that you're looking for, then I'm wondering why that E letter is on that desk on the right. I have to check that one out. Maybe that's a reflection or something like that. Yeah, I think that must be. Oh, I know why that is. I can show you that. So if you are in this location, things are going to reflect from the glass itself. So rinse and repeat the whole thing. That is how you create top-notch lighting. And until the questions are coming in, let me talk about what we are going to do next. So this has been a very quick and on-the-point presentation on how to use lights, but like I mentioned in the beginning, lights are only one part of the story in terms of how to create a good rendering. The other part, and that is a bit more difficult, is how to get the materials right. And for that, we have a presentation tomorrow. Only this time, I'm not going to do it because we have a pro in the office who is great with rendering, and my colleague Ilish is going to show you how to create the well, I think he's going to use the same model as I'm using now, but he's going to show you how to create high quality textures, how to keep on modifying the lights, and how to get the result that you see on the screen. So that is going to be tomorrow. Until then, if you have any questions, you can send them to me via email, and you can indicate your interest in the other shows, what we have, by going to the website and signing up to the upcoming webinars, because they are going to cover the whole interior design workflow. Okay, there's a question about how to insert an LED strip in the false ceiling. Now, that is not something you can do on the false ceilings editor itself. So if you go to the false ceilings properties and you have these elements, these are sort of light sources that are distributed along a path. So if you want to insert something in the ceiling like that, then you have to add them as individual items. I'm just now wondering how I could show that, but I think I have an idea on that. So let me just highlight the ceiling and offset it just a little bit, just like that. So now I have a gap over there. And now if I go to the back to the 2D and go to interior lights and LED strip, I'm just going to have to click the item. Now if I want to click it, you see that there's again the reference line that we already know, but the LED strip is positioned from the left of that. So let's just hit the F5 key, and then it's going to be like that. Sorry, I think yeah, I think that has been changed, but that's not a problem for me. So I'm just going to draw the LED strip all the way to south, like that. Hit enter. Let's just now close this with OK, because first thing I have to amend is that where this LED strip actually is. So I think it's not in the right place. So I'm just going to... Okay, clicking on elements now seems to be a bit more difficult than it was before. I think that is because of streaming. So highlight the element and move it out of the way. So I'm just going to say move from, and I'm just going to move it. If that happens, then so be it. So I think I need to know where this LED strip is. It's down on the ground. So the next thing I have to do, I have to elevate it, which I'm going to do graphically. If you know the exact values, then you can operate with values, but from now on I'm not going to do that. So again, the short answer to your question is, if you want to add LED strip to the ceiling, you are not doing it in the ceilings properties. Instead, you are doing it as an additional item. So now I'm going to turn back on rendering, which might be a bit difficult with the streaming. So if the streaming gets spotty, that is because of the rendering. So I really want to show you the result of that. So by the way, we have another course on suspended ceilings. So if you want to get more into the details, then we have a dedicated show. So that is how you get the result that you need. So again, just to recap, that's not something you would do in the ceilings menu. You have to sort of maybe offset it back and add the LED strip like that. Or if you have like an ornament, I'm going to show you another example. So let's just use LED strip, and I'm just going to use it like that. Maybe it should be, I think, a spline or something like that. It's not going to be beautiful, but you will get the idea instantly. So I'm going to do it like that. The strip is created. Again, I think I need to add an elevation of 2600 and maybe 50. I think it should be somewhere here. So let me just Oh yeah, I know what the problem is. I added it in meters, and that would make it too large. So it should be millimeters. Okay, here we go. So if I go back to the render, then you see it over there. So again, this should be added individually. Again, there's another question. Is there a quick way to create a lighting plan with the measurements to hand over to an electrician? I'm not sure I have the time to demonstrate that in full, but I can direct you to the right material where this is actually dealt with. So if I go to the website, and I'm going to ARCHLineXP.com/webinars, then here you can find the latest shows we had on the new tools of ARCHLineXP 2020. And if I'm looking for the one, this is the one. So conceptual MEP design with ARCHLineXP is the one where you can actually find the content about lighting plans like that. So this is what you are looking for, how to create a lighting plan where things could be connected together. This was done a couple of weeks ago, but it's still a relevant topic. So just go to the website, find the content about ARCHLineXP 2020 MEP design, and there you can find the tools that you're looking for. Okay, another question. Do you have puck lights for under wall cabinets? Well, to be honest, I need to know what puck lights are, so I'm just going to... I need to look this up, so I don't... This, I think you can do that with spotlights. I have my buddy Ilish here managing the comments, so he can add his input for this. I think it should be doable because, and let me now go back to the software itself, and let me open up a new project where I actually... I think I need to use the project that we had for kitchen design, and there I can probably show you that. So if I open up another version, let's just go to the puck lights. Haven't even heard this name before, but we'll see. So I'm now loading up another webinar I did a couple of days ago. This one was about kitchen design. And once I have loaded up this project, I'm just going to show you. I'm not going to do the whole thing, but I'm going to show you how to insert items to your objects real quick. So yeah, this is going to be a heavy project because it's going to have a lot of cabinets in them. But that would show you what I need. So let's assume that I have this object like that. So this one over there. If I open up its properties, I can see that this object had been done with the furniture maker. So this is in our software. I've already talked about this one. There are two ways to do this thing. So you either go to appliances, and here you can find the actual lamp, browse for them and insert them, or you can just say that the spotlight is over there. So let me just find series of spot lamps, for example. Let's just draw that. I'm trying this for the first time. I've never done this before, so you have to bear with me. So if I move this under here, and if I elevate them, I think the elevation is too large, so I'm just going to say this is 1.5 meters. I have to move them down a little bit, so like that. So again, you can experiment with this thing. So, but this is the idea. So if you have a bunch of recessed lights, I think I can, yeah, you can see that they are on. So you can see the tiny light patterns they are emitting. So that is the idea of how you do it. There's a short way, which is just adding the spotlights onto the floor plan and move them to the right place. And there's a longer way when you're actually building them into the cabinetry. But actually, that is what I wanted to discuss today. I'm just looking at the questions. I don't think there are any more. Yeah, one thing that Ilish has pointed out is that you can add holes and cutouts into the ceiling, and for that, fortunately, we have another show on the webinar pages. So let me just look at that. I think that was another show with about ceilings. So let me just look for that real quick. So if you find the one, suspended ceilings, ARCHLineXP webinar, this shows you how to get ceilings with sort of this kind of rectangular distribution, maybe a couple of holes, insets, and again, lights, LED strips, and how to create a very strange and customized shape like that, especially if it has multiple levels and elevations. So make sure that you check out the webinar page, because there you can find additional useful material. And again, see you tomorrow when we are going to talk about material settings and the tips and tricks about rendering. For now, I would like to thank you for your attention. If you like this show, then don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel. And that way you are not going to miss any of the similar shows. So see you tomorrow. Ilyes will be your host, and I see you from the 4th of May, when we are going to talk again about ARCHLine tools, but this time they are going to be a bit more advanced, but I'm going to talk to you about that a bit later on. So see you tomorrow. Thank you for your attention.